to me, success is fulfillment. It's what fulfills you, because that's really what matters at the end of the day. Because if you're fulfilled, if let's say you want to let's say someone says success to me means making millions and millions of dollars a year. Okay. But if you feel fulfilled, that millions and millions of dollars will come to you and continue to come to you and keep following you regardless. Now, I'm not saying there's not people who I was unfulfilled and I hit a very high level of success in my world, but there are people who I know who are unfulfilled millionaires. So it can happen to be that way. But to me, true success and the meaning of elements that's going to amplify every element of your life is fulfillment.
The Tom Screen podcast is owned and made possible by Ethical Marketing Service. If your business is struggling with Google or Facebook ads, maybe you're frustrated figuring it out, or there's a performance issue, Ethical Marketing Service has worked on hundreds of accounts and we can help in this area. We offer a 30-day money-back guarantee, and for every direct account we look after, we sponsor a child in a developing nation with food, water and education. If you would like to find out if we can help, it's a free, no salesy consultation call, and the link is in the description. Enjoy the episode. Thomas Green here with Ethical Marketing Service. On the episode today, we have Dr. Victor Manzo. Victor, welcome.
Thank you for having me on, my friend. Excited to be here.
It is my pleasure. Would you like to take a moment and tell the audience a bit about yourself and what you do?
Yeah, I've been a pediatric chiropractor for the last 12 years. And about 3 years ago, I started getting into business mindset coaching. And it was just because I listened to advice for the first half year of my career from chiropractors and the top entrepreneurs and self-help and personal development. And it helped me get to my financial peak, but I was burned out, exhausted. And I just like, I don't know how billionaires who have tons of businesses are able to do this where I have one and I'm burned out and I love what I do. And so I started to look at the principles of what I learned early on in my career with energy medicine, spiritual truths, universal laws, the power of the mind, aspects of how limiting beliefs work and all these different things. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to start doing the next half of it ended up being the next half, but of practicing chiropractic to not do what I was told. And I'm going to just define what success means to me, how I want to do that, how I want to do all these different elements where I'm not going to work hard, grind, hustle, and do those things. I'm going to do something totally different. And I had massive success where I worked less and made more. And I was more fulfilled. Never had burnout since. And that's where I got into coaching, because I was like, I'm tired of hearing the same advice that's being told to entrepreneurs. And since then, I was doing that as like a side hustle for the last 3 years, and I've been doing it full time now since January 2022.
Thank you for the introduction. There was a big kind of moment that my ears perked up when your introduction. It's like, how is it that I'm burnt out and all these other people have multiple businesses? What did you conclude from that point?
It was more or less, for me, it was just always having to do something. I always felt like I had they tell you to grind, the standard advice, grind, hustle, sweat equity. You got to do all this hard work. And I was like, you know what? That doesn't go along with nature, the law of the biology, how your body works and things like that. There's a law called the law of least effort. And what that is what's the minimum amount of work to get the greatest gain possible. And I read a book years ago about how billionaires think. I forgot what the name of it was, and what it was is that they only focus on one or two little things that move the needle. They don't expend all this energy of what we're being told to do. And I was like, you know what? And when I started going into this thought process, I was like, how can I maximize my effort, my gains by working as least possible? And that's what I started to do, is just focus on things that matter to me. The type of advice I give is very unorthodox, but it has a lot of, because it's very unorthodox in a way because we haven't been taught or exposed in this way of what I call the quantum field and understanding how that works. And when you start to tap into that, you don't have to work as hard. You work less. You accomplish way more. I had more time to where I was able to start a coaching business, write books, start a podcast, and do all these other things on top of what I was already doing before, and had the freedom to where it wasn't stressing me. And there's all these things I can share about practicing techniques, but at the end of the day, it's a mindset first.
So the mindset that you're referring to is, would you say it's delegation? Is that fair?
It can be. You can look at it that way because a lot of people say, one of the things I was always told is like, if whatever someone can do 80% as good as you do it, delegate it out and just focus on what is only things that you can do, right? That's good business principles. But if you don't have your mind wrapped around that to understand like what is your greatest output that you can get? What's the greatest bang for your buck? That's how billionaires think. It's like, what can I do that no one else can do that I'm going to focus my energy on that is going to help keep things moving forward? And that's how they're able to accomplish so much in such a little period of time.
And the mindset side of things that you're referring to, what's some of the best advice or best learnings that you've gotten around the topic of mindset?
Well, one of the things when it comes to these aspects is you have to have an intention of why you're doing what you're doing. Now, that kind of comes into what I was sharing a little earlier about when you do something, you want to make sure you get the greatest bang for your buck, but it shouldn't always be about money. It's also why are you meeting with someone? Like Oprah, I love when I found out about what Oprah does. Anytime she has a meeting, anytime she's doing something, she will always say, what is the intention of us being here? Here's my intention. What's your intention? What's your intention? And as she goes through everyone's intentions, then she conducts the meeting. And what that does is from a mindset perspective, it keeps you laser focused on what it is you want to discuss. You don't get off tangents. I mean, I think Bill Gates, if I'm not mistaken, he has 7-minute meetings, if I'm not mistaken. It's been a while since I've read this, but I'm almost certain it's that. And he books every 7 minutes. Why? That's laser focus. That's being laser focused, honed in. So what you're doing is you're allowing you're minimizing all the distractions. Now, I can give you practical advice for some individuals when it comes to this is you're just centering yourself and you're getting in the present moment. And that mindset perspective is that understanding when you can see how more impactful this is, you can get a lot more done in a shorter period of time when we're laser focused. We set the intention of why we're doing what we're doing, and that keeps us on pace or on page to what we have to do to get accomplished. And you can do this in your daily living. What are the 1, 2, or 3 things that I need to do? What's my intention behind why I need to do those? And then all of a sudden you put all your energy into that. What that's allowing is, again, not to get derailed, not to get distracted, not to let the low value things that that you don't want to accomplish get done, and you focus just on those big elements. So it's something that it takes people some time to get to this level of understanding that mindset because we're so easily being able to be distracted. Our attention span is around 8 seconds, probably a little less than that now. And so it's easy for us to be pulled away from stuff. And so setting an intention of why you need to do what you have to do, if it's a meeting, if it's a task, like that's what I do every morning. Like, what's the 2 or 3 things that I need to focus on today to call it a win? And when I look at that, what's the intention behind why I need to do that? Great. When I figure that out, then that's my energy for the day. That's what I focus on. I get that done. It's a win. Yeah, there's 1,000 things I have to get done on top of that. But those are the things that matter most right now.
And how did you go from, or how long did it take you to go from burned out to, should we say, doing multiple things and not feeling that way?
I would love to say it took like one day. It was a process. It took because what happened is there's all this old conditioning that I've been told as a kid, right? Hard work to make things work. You got to put in a ton of work. You got to do all these things. And here it is. I'm doing the opposite of what I've been told. So there's a lot of old conditioning I had to work through. So when I fully got into that process, it was about a year and a half, like where I was finally like just not stressing about things, not worrying about things, understanding that again, when the quantum world, you don't have to do really that much. I'm not saying there aren't actions you have to take. There are. Some people, when I say this, they get a little like, oh, what do you mean you don't have to work at all? I'm not saying you don't have to. There's a law called the law of inspired action. You have to take action, but it's so much less. And that's what I started to understand. I was always trying to figure out what's my next step. What's the next thing I have to work on? What's the next thing I have to do here? I always had to keep my mind on something because I felt like if I didn't do that, if I didn't keep my energy focusing on something, then business wouldn't thrive the way it needed to. And it got to a point where I stopped doing all that. And it took about, like I said, about a year and a half to trust that process to where I just focused on where my energy was, where's my emotions, where's my thoughts, where's my vibe, and just keeping my energy there. And just knowing that as long as I stay there, then all of a sudden the ideas, the circumstances, situations, and the actions I need to take will come to me. It won't be me trying to figure it out. And that was the big game changer for me making those choices, because then all of a sudden All I had to do then is just show up and love on my patients. All I had to do is just be connected with my staff and my team and love on them, and just see the vibe and the energy of what I wanted to be in that moment with everybody. And that what grew my practice. That what has helped me create sustainability even through COVID. We broke records through COVID, and it's one of those things that it was definitely different than the common norm that you were hearing.
Do you make any distinctions between size of business in terms of, like, if you were a startup, some people think that you need to wear all the hats, and then maybe as the business grows, maybe you can start relieving some of those jobs. Is it universal or is it dependent on the business?
The concepts I speak on are universal. I think it's in the beginning of when you're a startup, there are a lot of things that you have to take on. It's just 'cause unless you have the means of financially to hire people, it's one of those things you have to take on a lot of that. Like I know when I first started my practice as a chiropractor, I was the assistant as much as I was the doctor, and then there's the entrepreneur side of things, and then there's the marketing side of things, and then there's I was doing all these different stuff. But there's different aspects of where, like, again, we talked about like focus and how to center all your energy in. Um, what I learned to do, because I was very headstrong. I'm a type A driver personality. So when it comes to like, here's where I want to go, and I'll put the systems together to make that happen. So it's very easy for me to create systems. One of the things is that you just set, I set parameters and days for stuff. These things they still work. So like if you're a startup and you're like sitting there going, you see the bank account, you're not doing as well as you like. Again, it's a vibe thing. Get your mind focused on what you want to create. Get into that being element. Get into that state of where you want to go. I mean, I literally changed my whole life from end of this year. I'm originally from Chicago, and I moved to Knoxville, Tennessee. And yet I walked away from a practice because we just couldn't sell it in Illinois. It was just the climate wasn't right with COVID. And so I all of a sudden didn't have that normal income I'm used to having. And I had to go with my other income. But again, it's going into this place. So I wouldn't say it's a startup. The business has existed. It's not like it was a side business. It was a part-time business. It wasn't something that was full-time, like I was putting all my energy in my chiropractic office. And so then all of a sudden I had to, shift. I had to go back to these principles and just get into the vibe. I didn't do that initially because I was like, I have to create this business. This is the things I need to do to get to that level. And now I'm at a point where it's like, no, just the vibe. Get back to the vibe. And just focus on your energy, and the ideas come. And all of a sudden, here comes an idea, and I act upon the idea. I feel like I pull to want to take action. I take action. That becomes a very successful idea. All of a sudden, it starts helping me generate to get more exposure and have people get to know me more as a business mindset coach. And so, or meeting somebody. I felt inclined to meet this person and reach out to them and talk to them. And next thing you know, they have a partnership. Now I'm speaking on their platform and all these other things. So these are the kind of things so it works in any element, whether you've been in business or a startup. The key element is just focusing on that vibration of where you are, and everything will come to you.
So if you were to, let's say, talk to someone and they had that hard work, hustle type mentality, maybe feeling a little bit burned out, and they said, can you tell me one thing that I should just do to try and make this better? Like a first step, what would you say to them?
Do nothing.
Be
right,
tricky.
because they're so used to that, and right, because you said, what's the first thing I need to do this, and doing nothing is still doing something, and you got to understand that that's foreign to me. I'm still trying to master how I can like one of my friends was like, just go listen to a book all day and don't do anything. I'm like, no, that can't happen. I got to do something. So it's still ingrained in me, and I'm working through that. But it's like Lao Tzu said. He's the founder of Taoism, and in his book Tao Te Ching, one of the verses, I think it's verse 4, he says, when you feel like you have to do force, that's grind, that's hustle, that's all that. It's force energy. That's Newtonian physics. And he's like, when you feel like you have to do that, don't do anything. Pull back. Just get back. And what that means is get back to that essence of being, get back into that vibration. The things that you need to act upon will come to you. The problem with humans in general is we don't like uncertainty. We need control. The mind needs control. The mind also creates massive resistance. And so this is why these ideals, when we think about it and you hear them, the first reaction, you're having a knee-jerk reaction from your mind. And we're all conditioned that we have to work hard. We have to, in order to be successful, you got to put in work, you got to sacrifice. These are things that have been embedded into our minds for hundreds of years. This is not something new. And it's one of those things where, to go the opposite of that and trust that all you have to do from a quantum perspective, if you are the true creator of your life, in the Bible, it says you're made in the likeness and image of God. God was a creator. God created the world in 6 days. I'm not saying you can do that, but what we can do is we can create. That's what we're designed to do. And so if you're creating your life, why can't then all you have to do is just showcase what is it that you want to create. This is where vision comes in. I work with a lot of my clients on this, and we use a tool, visualization, and there's an emotion tied, because then all you're doing is you're projecting to the universe, God, Allah, whatever you want to label. The label doesn't matter, whatever works best for you. And you're projecting what it is you desire. You're creating that vibration, and then what like attracts like. So if you're in that vibrational state, then that experience in your physical realm is going to come, because all things start non-physical and they go into the physical. And so that's the journey process to, when you understand that principle, then you realize you don't have to work so hard. I mean, the old story I love to share on this when it comes to the law of least effort, effortless success is something I use a lot, or effortless action. These are all the things I'm talking about. And when you think of like the story of David and Goliath in the Bible, if you're not familiar with it, David was the king of things, and this Goliath was this big, massive being. Standard business advice of what we're told today is grab a stone, as many stones as you could possibly find, and just keep throwing them. Just keep throwing them. Don't stop throwing until it finally hits the spot you need. That's across the board, constant advice that's been shared. It's been 12 years, and I was listening to that stuff in 23, so it's 15 years. So the first last 10 years, this is the same. 15 years has been the same story. Effortless success, the quantum world, law of least effort, putting all your focus into one. Take action when you feel it, when you're inspired. That's what David did. He took one stone, threw it, decked him, and Goliath fell. That's taking action when you're inspired. That's when you're in an element of vibration. When you take action that when you're feeling inspired to, that is when you're in alignment to your vision. You're in alignment to your definition of success. You're in alignment to your dream life. I can use alignment for many different things here. And that's when you get that good vibe feeling. And that's when you know that you're in that state of alignment. So when you take that action, that's why it becomes successful.
So let's say the busy person who has their long to-do list. I'm sure you've been there at some stage. And they've got all these things. What's practically what should they do? Because I can hear the objections that person would say. So what do you say to that person?
First off, everybody has a busy list. I have one too. Every day I have a list that I go through. Here's what I recommend. For number one, what are the like the things that have to get done no matter what? Like they're the absolutes. Your whole list is not that. There is a percentage of them that are going to be. What are the 1, 2, or 3? I used to be I'm a type A driver personality guy. So tasks and getting things done is like, that gets me excited. That's also my downfall. So I make a list every day of what I need to get done. Then I just pick 1, 2, or 3. I color coordinate them. Some people like color coordinating. Green is what you want to focus on. Yellows are like whenever you have a chance to, and reds, those are like don't have to. Those are, you can vice versa colors, however works for you. It doesn't matter. But just choose a couple things that are like absolutes and you need to get done. And then look at the rest of the list, and then just look and see what are important things that may need to be done, and what are things that you can push off. This is what billionaires do. They only focus on what needs to be done for today. They don't focus on maybe haves and then I could worry about that next week. Because a lot of times our list, like I have things where, I just became a new dad 7 weeks ago. And so having a baby in the house, thank you so much. Having a baby in the house, right? There's a whole shift in my lifestyle that has to happen. Now, my wife, she's a stay-at-home mom, but I need to give her breaks. So my schedule has gotten more interesting. Not that it's hard, it's just I got to adapt to it. So I had to re-look at my schedule and then just fine tune it and say, okay, I know 4 hours out of my day, I'm going to be at the minimum, because I want to hang out with my daughter. I'm going to spend time with her, just me and her. But at the same token, I still have to run. And I don't have one business. I have multiple businesses. I have to take time to focus on those and then also keep everything moving forward. So you have to be, from my mindset at first, of course, what did I react to? I'm very transparent. I don't mind sharing this. I got into overwhelm for a quick second, right? All of a sudden, I'm like, man, I got to do this and this, and I got to juggle this with the baby. I don't know how I'm going to sustain all this. And then I did some meditations. I did some breath work. I recentered myself. And I'm like, you know what? Let's see let's play around with some of the schedules and let's see what works. And now I have a beautiful schedule that works. I have to get up a little earlier in the morning, which is perfectly fine. I used to be able to get up. I used to get up at 4 a.m. every day. So getting up a little earlier doesn't bother me because my wife wakes up around with the baby around 7:30. So then I'm like, great, if I can get most of the busy work done up until that point, then I can take care of the baby for a little bit. And then I go back to work at a certain time. I got to look around my schedule. So you just manage things as things come up. But that to-do list thing, again, what is the most number one priority you have to get to? And then there's things that you don't have to do today. Like it's okay. Like there's just some stuff that's not a priority. It's not going to, if you don't do it for the next day or the next 3 days, it's not going to change anything. And that's when you have to be really clear on what it is, because we're so caught up in being workaholics and overdoers. Because what we're practicing and what we're told since a young age is to be a human doer, not a human being. So look at, sometimes what I do and when I work with clients, I get them to this point where I just tell them, look at that list and just feel what you have to do. Like sometimes you can think about it and that's fine. But I like feeling because it gets the head out of the way. And just be like, I feel like I have to work on this, this, and this, and that's all I need to focus on. Great, let's do that. And that's all. And then the other things that are not as important, they'll come important. They'll eventually become a priority that you have to get done. And I hope that answers the question.
Great answer. You mentioned sort of waiting for the feeling or the inspiration. Is that what you refer to as being in flow?
Flow, yeah, flow's a little different. So the feeling is, now it shows up for many different people. And I'll talk a little about what flow is too in a second. The feeling is really more of like a joy, a bliss, calm, excitement. It's something that's a higher vibration, emotional vibrational state. And you just feel like, I always say, I'm trying to work with adults and trying to get them to be excited like kids again. That's a lot of what my work's about, because at the end of the day, if you can get into that feeling, think of like a 4-year-old, a 3-year-old, when they do something, they're excited to do it. You know, they're not focused on anything else. Who's thinking this? Who's thinking that? No, they just want to do that. They're excited. That's the feeling I'm talking about. That's the state of alignment. The state of flow is similar in some ways, but something different, because flow is when you're in a state of being. Now, for athletes, they call that the zone, where all of a sudden you are centered and connected. So it's when you have this, your left and right brain are actually, they call it hemispheric synchronization. What that means is they're both vibrating at the same state. They're connected with each other. They are connected, but what I mean is that they're not, one's more dominant than another. They're both balanced in that state. And what happens is then all of a sudden your focus and your concentration comes in. This is where more focus attention comes into. The feeling is just a feeling that will propel you to something. It's like a magnet. It pulls you towards it. Where flow state is like you have intense focus. You can get into visionary things. There can be feelings. There can be ideas that come from that. I'm not saying it doesn't. That's where some of the similarities are. But flow is like, for example, like when I wrote my and all my books, some people ask me, like, how did you do it? What was the outline? What did you do? What did you follow? And I'm like, it's nothing. The book title came to me. I want to write 30 books in my life. So the book title came to me in November. I came up to me. I was like, wow, I think that's a cool name. Sent it to my artist to do the book cover just to see what it would look like. He came back very close to what I wanted, shared a couple more things, fine-tuned it. When it came to writing the book, I'd be like, well, I don't even know what I'm going to title the first chapter. I mean, literally, this is me getting ready to be in a writing state. And all of a sudden, I'm like, I don't even know what to title the first chapter. No worries. Let me just get into my state. That's the flow state. All of a sudden it comes to me and I'm like, here's the first title. And then boom, I just write. And then all of a sudden I look back and I'm like, wow, all right, I finished the chapter. Thumbs up. I didn't think it. I know this is sometimes very hard for people to think. I didn't like think of the process or the writing process or what I was going to share. It just flowed to me. And all of a sudden I'm just writing it out. And then all of a sudden when I look back, I read it and I'm like, this is good stuff. I like it. It connects with the title. It went off on a tangent here, but I can see how it connects and so forth. So that's the feeling side. It pulls you towards it. It has an inkling towards you. You can't ignore it. It gets louder and louder. And that's how you know you're being attracted towards something.
And what's the title of that book?
That book is called Decoding the Matrix.
Sounds cool. What's it about?
So it's all about the conditioning of the mind and how the matrix, there is a matrix that exists. The other name for that is called human collective consciousness. It is basically, what that means is it's every thought, every emotion, and the things that humans focus on. When you average all that out, that's a vibration. You can put that as like a number. You average all those out. That becomes the matrix. And the key thing about that is that creates experiences. That creates what we go through as humanity as a whole. But there's also sub matrices under that, like continents and countries and states and cities that you grew up in, and the individual himself. And those all add to the experience. And the thing is that conditions us, because why is it in the 50s something was, this was the common thing in the 50s, but in 2000 it's a different thing. Well, people say, well, that's just how we evolve. Well, that's true, but that's also how the matrix evolves. It's changing. And as that changes and evolves with us, because it's always averaging things out, if you're not aware of it, you will become the average. And we're not designed to do that as humans. We're designed to inspire. We're designed to, express our own path. And our goal is to not be muted into the whole. Our goal is to rise above that. And I share about how to do that. What's your potential? I share what I do when I start with coaching clients, what are the big things I focus on? And then I talk about how that leads to a spiritual awakening, or accelerates your spiritual awakening when you're on that path.
Well, congratulations on becoming an author. Why 30 books?
Just came to me. I really don't have a reason to it. There's no ego behind it. I already got 3 in, and it's one of those things where it just came to me. One day I was like, how many books would I want to write? I want to be an author. What do I want to share? And I was like, 30 books. And I am not attached to that number. I can end up with, I could be done with my 3 and I'm done writing. I'm happy with that. It's just the inclination of, again, getting back into this different thinking process of being pulled and attracted toward things. Like, I already know, I have an idea what number 4 is going to be, but again, I'm thinking about it. If you notice that, I said the idea of what 4 will be. I'm not being pulled towards it, but the time will come, because I wanted to write a book every year. And so in 2018, 2019, I wrote 2 books, one each year. And then I took 2 years off because COVID came and I wanted to focus on the practice more. And then literally I didn't have any intentions. I was moving in the middle of getting ready to develop my 3rd book. I mean, literally I'm moving from Chicago to Knoxville. I'm closing an office. My wife's pregnant. And here I am, the book's coming to me. And I'm just going, universe speaks when universe speaks. So I'm like, I feel pulled to this. This is what I need to focus on. And my wife's like, go ahead. You do you. And so yeah, there's really no answer to that 30.
Would you mind speaking a little bit about potential?
Yes. So like in my book, I talk about what is human potential, right? There is no instrument, no technology can tell you what your limits are. From a mindset perspective, we're limitless. And so I've always been intrigued by potential. We use that term in chiropractic a lot, experience your human potential and so forth. But from a mindset perspective, from an energy perspective, quantum physics, neuroscience, and all these things, I was like, well, what's really potential? Like, how could we define it so that people can understand? And it was very simple. In spiritual truth, when I say spiritual truth, this is information that's been shared 2,000 to 5,000 years ago. And it's still true to today. Science is just catching up with us. And so one of them is that whatever you see in your mind's eye, you can create in your reality. So your mind's eye is just another term for imagination. And what I found out is that you can only create in your life what you can see. Now, I'm not saying physical eye see. I'm speaking within. And so that's your potential, because if you can see it, then you can create it. If you can't see it, you can't imagine it, then you can't create it. And this is huge for so many people, because if you want to create a dream life, or you want to make $1 million, if you can't visualize that, you can't see yourself with it, you can't see the experience of it, you're never going to create it, because you have to see it first. And so that becomes our potential. So what is it? That's why we're limitless in a sense, because if you have a limitless imagination and you can be extremely creative in so many different ways, you have endless potential that's there for you. And so that's the essence of our true potential there's work. I'm not saying you're just thinking that's going to happen, but at the essence, if you're looking at what is my potential to become this individual person, if you can see it in your mind's eye, you can create it in your life.
Have you got any thoughts about what your imagination is going to come up with? What you can see, or what your potential is?
For what my potential. So my potential is limitless, and that's a belief system I have built behind it. So, um, as of right now, there's things I have ideas of, but I gotten so used to thinking of what my next steps were that I'm getting away from that now, and I'm just going into the being element. And it's more of just like where I'm at now. Right. I have my mindset coaching program for business and entrepreneurs. I'm creating a division of that for spirituality for individuals. I'm creating a division of that for health. And that's just where my energy is being pulled towards right now at this moment. Down the road, from a mental perspective, what my potential of what I'm trying to create is an online consciousness school to where minds can come together and they can help accelerate and wherever they are in their life to create an awakening process. And what I mean by awakening is just truly understanding who they really are. That's the purpose of my life, is just to help people raise their consciousness levels so they can remember the greatness of who they are. Because if I can get them to remember the greatness of who they are, they will then all of a sudden create and be that creator that they are and do all that they do, lead a fulfilled life, not be conditioned and pulled from what the world says or leaders say that, when it comes like success, money, big house, big car, this is a big standard thing that's always told, and all the fun toys. And that may not be, you may be pulled into thinking that's what you want. That's what happened to me. I thought a successful chiropractor was, I got to this point financially, and all of a sudden I'd be like, that's it. That's successful. That's wow. And then I got there and I'm like, this ain't fun. This is not fulfilling. I was like, I need to change this around. In a couple of years, we were back where we were financially, but I was way more fulfilled. And it wasn't because of the finances. The finances weren't even important to me anymore. It was more just the experiences. So yeah, I'm hoping that answered that question.
It does, but it leads me nicely to the next question, because you mentioned about knowing who you are. So if I ask you the question, Victor, who are you? What would you respond with?
Oh, that is deep. I am, and I just leave it at that. Because think about it, I can be anyone I choose to be as long as I put my energy and focus to. I'm not a chiropractor, even though I say I'm a chiropractor. That's not who I really am. I'm not a coach, even though I say I'm a coach. That's just not. But that when we're talking about who I really am, that these are all titles and labels of giving me an identity. But really, at the end of the day, I'm nothing and everything. If we want to get real deep into it, and so that's why I said I am, because it's the two words that are most powerful in the human language. Or English language, because that statement, whatever you say afterwards, when you declare like that, that's what you're going to end up creating that identity to become.
Well, I can tell you that of all the times that I've asked that question, that is the shortest answer. That is what I would say there.
Well, you got me, because I was like, I can go down this whole path, and I was like, no, not going to go there. I want to keep this deep. That's a deep question. I want to go with the depth of that. If I had to answer who am I? I'm just a creator. I'm a soul having a human being experience, and I'm creating the life that intrigues me or interests me. That's if I had to keep it that short, that's probably the shortest I can keep it.
Okay. Well, for people who perhaps inquire with regarding your business and they need some mindset help, what is typical in terms of what their problems are?
A lot of times they're facing a challenge. It's two things. It's either going to be a challenge or something that they've been dealing with that they just can't overcome. They tried on their own. They tried doing a workshop. They read a books or multiple books, listen to podcasts, and they're just struggling and hitting a wall. And they want to overcome that. And usually a lot of times it's not what they think it is. There's something deeper blocking them, a belief, a limiting belief of some way, shape, or form usually. The other one is just trying to achieve a dream life. They want to get to a certain point in their career, make more money. They want to have a certain level of a lifestyle, and they want to grow their business into a certain aspect. And those are the other types of clients that will reach out to me to help them acquire to get to that point. And again, it's not like we design business structure ideas. It's again, working on you, the individual, to unlock whatever limits you have that are holding you back from there. And then how can they get to that dream life faster?
And you mentioned limiting beliefs. Have you got any thoughts in addition that you want to share there?
Yeah, I mean, limiting beliefs, for those who may not know, those are beliefs that we've had conditioned in our, we've been told at one point between usually around the age of 0 and 7, that is kind of a belief of what life is. I call these things codes. Before I became a chiropractor, I was going into computer science before I had my health issues, and then it totally exposed me to the world of chiropractic. And so codes are, if anybody knows about coding in the computer system, it's an input. It has the code written, and then it creates an output. And so no matter if the code is the way it is, no matter what that input is, it's always going to run the same until you change the code. So that code is a belief. And so limiting beliefs are things that hold us back. It could be, you need money to make money. That's a limiting belief with money. You can believe that, it could be in relationships. It can be with your health. It can be with business. It can be with your self-worth. There's so many different elements of limiting beliefs that can show up. And what they do then is they hold us back. And no matter what we do, doesn't matter what you do, if you have that limiting belief that exists, it will be a ceiling and block you and hold you back until you can excel. And I experienced that with money because I came from a background of blue collar. And money was always praised, but it wasn't seen as much. And they all just wish they won the lottery and it would take care of all their problems. And I wanted to make sure I didn't have a life like that. And it was one of the things where I didn't realize until I was hitting some walls financially in a business. And I was like, I don't get it. I'm growing, but I'm not growing at the level I think I should be growing, like at my potential of what I could. And it was very frustrating. And it got to a point where all of a sudden I was like, you know what? I'm just going to focus on limiting beliefs. I knew about beliefs before. I knew the power behind them. I know that everything you believe is what your reality is. It's not seeing is believing. Believing is what seeing. And so I decided to just focus on that. And then all of a sudden, 2 years later, I tripled my business and I 5.5x my profits. And I was like, wow, I didn't do anything different. Like literally, I didn't do anything different to the business. No new ads, no new marketing things, nothing. All I did was focusing on those limiting beliefs. And so that was a big game changer for me. So these happen in our life in various forms. And, the key is in order to create massive change, you got to become aware of those things. And that's a big thing I work on with a lot of my clients.
The massive change that you're referring to there in relation to money, what was, you mentioned the limiting belief, or what was the thing that overcame it?
What overcame is I just had to realize, where did that limiting belief come from? Who was telling me that? Right? Why did I think I needed money to make money? Why did I think that, and I'm going blank with all the limiting beliefs on money, but, my self-worth, or, I had low self-worth issues. And so I didn't think I was valuable enough, even though I had the credentials and I could have backed it all up with my ego and all that. I still felt I had low self-worth. So I had to understand, where did that begin? And there was things that show up, because when you work on limiting beliefs, they're subconscious. You're not aware of them. If you try to think them out, you're never going to get there. You're going to be running down it's like a dog trying to catch its tail. It's never going to get it. We're thinking of a short tail, and a dog can't move that well. So, because some people are like, well, this dog has a long tail. Look how easy it is. Anyway, I digress. So it's one of those things where, you look at these things, they're subconscious. So you have to look at triggers. You have to look at patterns that show up in your life. For me, when I had to spend money on something, or a bill came out of nowhere, there was a certain emotion that hit. There was a heaviness. And I was like, why do I have this heaviness? I'm like, I was fine. The bill came. Okay, so what? And I had to go do some seeking to understand, okay, well, what does that feeling mean? Because that's showing me I'm not in alignment, and there's something I need to work on. Not work in the sense of mental, just something that needs to be healed. I need to become aware of this. And so all of a sudden I would start to do that work, and I would start to catch these things. Like, I think, I need money to make money. That's a big trap. You're valuable. And when I started to actually hone in, I started to do this as a belief system. I said, you know what? I found where that came from and all these things, and it'll come to you. These things. It's in your subconscious. You just have to become aware, quiet the mind, and just become aware. And that's a tough thing to do. It's not as easy as I'm saying it is. But when I got to that place, then I said, where did this belief system serve me? When did I choose to let it serve me? And all of a sudden, I remember an image came to me as a kid. And I was like, wait, I remember that image. I remember when I was at that age. Man, what? And then all of a sudden, it's just like playing an old movie in your head. And then all I do is you just take that belief, and I'm like, okay, thank you for serving me. I appreciate you serving me for the time you have, but your time has gone, and I'm releasing you back, and you can say into the universe, whatever. And I'm going to choose a new one. And then from that moment on, when I say a code, when I say a belief system, I set it to say, this is my new belief system. And that's it. So now I am valuable. I don't need money to make money. Money is people pay for what they value. If I am valuable, and I'm providing valuable information or valuable resources and become that person for them, they will pay, and they're going to pay me for what my worth is. And that was a game changer. So just from that one little thing, going into talking to patients about their health, giving them an extensive plan that's going to help them and so forth, I came with a different energy. And that energy was receptive. And all of a sudden, my conversions went up. All of a sudden, everything in my business started to change I didn't do anything and just shift that belief system.
Thank you for sharing that. I think the self-work is very important. And even if you go back to that memory or that belief and you maybe look at why you believe it, even if you act the same, it's still going to be beneficial to know why you do things. Would you say that's fair?
100%. And you don't even have to go back. Just to clear really quick, you don't even have to. Like, some people are like, do I have to go back to the exact memory in order to clear? I'm like, no, you don't have to. You can just become aware of the feeling. That feeling you feel, because it's a heavy, like I told you, mine was a heaviness. Like, everything just sunk in. And I was just like, I don't know why I feel that way. I don't like that feeling. It's icky. It's like slime goo, just thick, and it just feels weird. But then I let my mind play a role with me, because the mind wants to be a part of things. And I said, okay, mind, when I feel this relates to that. Now I'm programming my life. And so then every time I felt that, my mind will kick in consciously and go, that when you feel that, that means this. So that means you have this thing popping up. So what do we do? Then I can correct it. I can correct it in the moment by changing my feeling, right? Change the belief. What's the belief? I'm valuable. I am valuable. People who seek, all these, I had different affirmations for it, but I had an emotion behind it, and it would raise my emotion. And I would keep saying it until my emotion got back to being high, where I didn't have that gooey, icky feeling. I felt light and airy. And when I felt light and airy, I was good to go. Simple as that.
You say you have the affirmations. What do affirmations do for you, would you say?
I don't like using affirmations too much, but I was using them at the time just to reaffirm kind of the things I was saying. But when it comes to like affirmations in general, uh, I'll declare a statement that's powerful, but it gets me I tie it to like an emotion that's of a high vibration. So what I mean by an emotion that's a high vibration is, I remember an event in my life that brought up, like, it could have been in sports. Most time it's in sports. I played baseball for 25 years. And so there's an event where I was like, everything was on the line, and all of a sudden I came through, maybe pitching or maybe been hitting or maybe in the outfield. And I remember that. Now that I have a daughter who's 7 weeks old, it is the easiest thing in the world. I just picture her in my arms, right? I could see her in my arms, and then I get this butterly feeling. I feel great. I feel light. I feel airy. And then all of a sudden it's like I'm in that good vibe. And then I'll just, that's the vibe I need to get to with an affirmation if I use them. I don't use them often, to be very transparent. Because a lot of people use affirmations thinking that just because they're saying that, it's going to make the change and make the initiation. There is a power to them, but you have to use emotions to tie that in. If you don't, you're missing the boat on them.
Well, thank you for that. You touched upon the concept of success not being big house, big car. I do like to ask this question. What does success mean to you?
I love that question. To me, success is fulfillment. It's what fulfills you, because that's really what matters at the end of the day. Because if you're fulfilled, if let's say you want to let's say someone says success to me means making millions and millions of dollars a year. Okay. But if you feel fulfilled, that millions and millions of dollars will come to you and continue to come to you and keep following you regardless. Now, I'm not saying there's not people who I was unfulfilled and I hit a very high level of success in my world, but there are people who I know who are unfulfilled millionaires. So it can happen to be that way. But to me, true success and the meaning of elements that's going to amplify every element of your life is fulfillment.
Thank you for that. Is there anything I should have asked you about today?
No, you had some great questions. I think these were great. Maybe what is fulfillment? But I don't even, I'm thinking about that. I was like, you didn't ask fulfillment, but I'm like, I don't even know how to respond to that, because it's a feeling. It's not a mental thing for me. It's like, here's how I explain fulfillment to people, is that it is the one thing that you can take away when you leave this place. When our time comes to transition, that element of fulfillment are all the things that are aside to that you can take on to your next, whatever that is that you may believe.
Thank you for that. If people do want to hire you or connect with you, where do they go?
The easiest way to find me is my website. It's my hub. It's www.empoweryourreality.com. Up on the top right corner, if you like what I'm talking about, you want to set up a free discovery call with me. I take 30 minutes. We go through challenges or what you want to create in your life. And then I will give you a couple action steps to how to move forward. And if I feel like I know I can help you, then I'll share how I can do that also. I have my podcast. I have free resources in there. And then if you want to connect with me on social media, at the bottom left of my website, I'm on 4 platforms: Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn. I share videos 5 times a week, at least, something related to mindset, spirituality, money, just raising one's life, consciousness and so forth. So come check me out. If you have questions, DM me. I do read my DMs. I do respond to them. I love hearing from people. So come and connect.
Well, for everyone listening, please review the links in the description. Victor, thank you for being a great guest today.
Oh, thank you for having me on, man. It was a lot of fun.